So here we are, on to the third and final aett, and starting with number 17, if my math is correct. And this will be the first of the third aett, and number 17 in the fourth futhark. So here we've got Tiwaz, around there, Tiwaz, and this is representative of the god Tia. Now, when you're considering the runes that connect to God, you have to consider their stories and myths. And one of Tia's stories was much like Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones, it was to lose his sword hand for the greater good. Not like Jaime, but you know what I mean. He was a great warrior like Jaime, and he lost his sword hand. But it was for the sake of binding Fenris, who was intent on destroying the world. So that gives quite an obvious connection of sacrifice for the greater good. But in a modern sense, it's about pursuing every avenue. You know, like you've tried everything. Well, now have you tried perhaps assessing your life and seeing if there's something that you can give up to give yourself extra time for said pursuit? You know, a very important story. So, and the shape of it, you know, it is a direction. Are you headed in the right direction? Because it's like an arrow. And this also connects very strongly with the warrior energy, if you like. And so it's often considered the warrior's rune. So, you know, if you're going through a hard time and you need a little bit more grit, then this is a rune that's good to carry with you. Okay. So, as I said, the letter T goes with it. Forgot that bit. Almost an obvious one, you know, a very easy connection there. You've got letter T, Tiwaz. And so looking at the deeper part of it, the first part, Tu, is the Anglo-Saxon name for Tia. And I don't know, is it Tu has, Tu is? Who is he? What does he do? And then, as I've mentioned before, that arrow shape. So it gives you the warrior aspect. Perhaps someone's going through a hard time and you're saying you've got it, you've got the grit you need. And of course, turning it on its side, it's like an arrow, like you're headed in the right direction or you're headed in the wrong direction, whichever it is you feel is appropriate for the person you're reading for. And then to just go a little bit morbid there, I've drew a little hanging man, because it sort of looks like that, a dude just hanging there. And that brings me on to further connections that you can make with the runes. And in this case, the hanged man connects with the tarot. Sorry, slipped my mind there. It connects with the tarot. Now, I am not the sort that thinks it's right to sort of combine readings, like lay out tarot cards and then put runes on top of them. For me, that don't work right. They're two different energies. Of course, I'll go through the runes, the tarot in due time. But there are linkages in terms of their energy. So that's Tiwaz. On to the next. Next up, number 2 of the third aett and number 18 of the entire futhark. And you have Bakana, and it is indeed the letter B. Different ways of saying this I found. Bakana, Bakano, Bakanan, all go back to the same meaning, which is of the birch tree. Now, you know, you've got a tree going on there. Now, the yew tree that we did previously was kind of obvious because that related to the tree of Yggdrasil. This one, you've got to understand more about their society to understand what the birch tree meant to them. And the birch tree was used specifically for birthing rites, you know, for babies. And on that first night when young couples were married, there was a bunch of birch twigs would be laid at the door or hung above the door to help bring about good fertility on that first night and you know, the forthcoming babies. So it does very much connect with birth. It's one of the first things you can see there. So in a very literal sense, if this was a question about fertility or a successful pregnancy, then this would be quite definitive, I think. But then also you think of the mother herself nurturing, so you've got nurture there. And it also relates to spring, I feel, because of that new energy. And again, in a more energy sense or a metaphoric sense, new start, new energy, you know, all things new, rebirth even, you know. So this is a very positive rune to pull out, I feel. And a very feminine rune as well. So speaking of feminine, I mean, the name itself, I went a bit out there with it, you know, Burke or Bacana, birch or break, you know, dawn break, you know, a bit out there with that. I don't get a lot more from the sound, if I'm honest, but you might. But the shape of it, you know, you turn it around and come on, it looks like boobies, you know. It's not, yeah, we can get rude with it, but you know, it does. It looks, look, come on. Looks like boobies, you know. So for me, it's those mother's breasts, you know. And then I sort of think, oh, well, going down from there, it might also look, and excuse my little artistic crap there, like the pregnant body from the side. Heavy breasts, big belly, you know, so very much a birth rune there. So that's a Bacana, and I think it's a really lovely rune, actually. It's one of my favourites. So see you on the next one. Next up, number 3 of the third et, and number 19 overall of the entire futhark. And here we have Awaz, which is this little shape here. And, you know, to go back to its initial meaning, it means horse. Now, horse doesn't mean an awful lot to us in modern times. So when it represents an animal, you have to go sort of deeper into what that animal represents. What does that animal do? What do we think of when we think of a horse? Well, I think of friendship, because, you know, horses are very much like dogs. They're very closely linked to humans. So I feel that this rune represents friends. So, you know, if you're asking a question of who to trust or who not to trust, this one also I feel needs more data with it. So on its own, I don't feel it gives a lot of answers. I feel it needs more runes to be drawn to give further detail to the answers. Anyway, to go back to what I get from it when I make these runes. So I've got momentum there, because, you know, horses have to keep moving. Like horses can't lie down. I mean, I don't know that much about horses. I'm like one of the few gypsies who's like, don't like horses. But anyway, but I know that if they're laying down, their organs are very heavy. So horses have to keep moving. So it's this idea of you know, several different runes that represent momentum in the futhark. This one I sort of feel is just a gentle reminder, keep going. It's almost like take action would be another interpretation, which is why it kind of needs more information, because like take action on what, and keep the momentum up on what. But also I feel it's choices. And this isn't one I've got before. But when I was meditating on it as I was making the this particular rune stick here, thing, whatever, I thought about the different types of horse, you know, like the old grey mare and the young stallion, you know, and how we do have choices in life, whether to run or whether to stand our ground, whether to join the community, which is another one, join the herd, or run on our own. So yeah, choices was an interesting one that I got with that. I mean, see what you think. And yes, turn it on its side. It's very obviously the letter E there. But also I feel M does go with it as well, that momentum, you know, movement. And then the sound of it, you know, I don't know. Honestly, I don't get an awful lot from that on its own. I do need more information with it, you know. So see what you think. You might connect with it much deeper than I do. It's all about doing it your way after all. See you on the next one. Here we have number 20 in the entire futhark, and number 4 in the third et. And this one is more multi-layered than I initially felt when I first started communing with the runes. So this is Manaz. You can see it there, and it is the letter M, another one that links very obviously with its Germanic or English letter, and it means mankind. And now, don't get yourself in a tiz. I will be talking about man this, man that, you know. I really don't have time to go through and all the different genders and gender identities. So let's just say that I do not disrespect how you feel. I prefer to generalise, because I honestly don't care about what you are. I care about if you're a good person, you know. So let's just take it as granted that when I say man this and man that, I mean mankind, okay? Disclaimer. Mankind. So roles within society, of course, comes to mind, how we fit in, and changing roles. This often does bring about an indication of change in someone's life, you know, like changing from girlfriend to fiance to wife to mother. So, you know, it also relates to people in general. So, you know, there's a rune coming up a bit later on that represents family. We've just had one that represents friends, and this essentially represents everyone else. And I also feel it represents the evolving. So, you know, changing roles. It's not a change, it's an evolution of self. So if this one was to come up, it would definitely indicate something about you needing to embrace your evolution. Or if it came up in terms of business, you could be looking at a promotion. Happy days. So very positive, I think, this rune, and very multi-layered, as indeed society is now, you know. So looking at the rune deeper, the sound of it in my mind is kind of obvious. It's man has or man is, from the sound man as. And then you take it as, you know, one person, and then linking arms with many other people, different shapes, different sizes, you know, and about getting along, about the village, about us all striving toward better as a human race, as people, you know. And yeah, I think that is quite important for where we are at the moment. I also sort of think it looks like a double, just come to me, a double wunjo, you know, that P shape. So, you know, experiencing life doesn't have to be on your own. It's experienced much better with others, you know. So I think an important rune for our age. So that's Manaz. So here we are onto the last part of the third et, starting with Laguz. Now the corresponding Germanic letter is more easily seen if you turn it around that way, and that is the letter L, Laguz. Traditional meaning, lake, which you can get from the sound Laguz, lake, and the corresponding more modern meanings, or the answers to get from it, would be linking the lake to water and to the emotions. But also, if you think of water and how it flows, even within a lake or river, I get fluidity, and of course balance, to help balance your emotions. So quite an interesting rune this. It has a lot of simplicity to it, I feel. Not that it gives easy connecting answers, but when I look at this rune, I just feel so much simplicity, ease with it, not a lot of blockages. So in answer to questions, I would feel the dominating message this would give is that things are flowing and going the way they need to go. So to not be so concerned with, I don't know, waterfalls, if you like, or rocks in the middle of the stream. Just keep that flow going in your life. Now, as you know, I like to look at the shape as well. The sound of the rune, I don't got an awful lot from that. Perhaps you do, and do share your ideas with me. So Laguz Lake is pretty much all I get with that. But then I also get this sense of balance, like somebody on a tightrope walking, you know, two arms, you know, if you pop another line on that, you know. And then this idea of smoothly entering water like a dive. Of course, my artwork isn't great, as you know. And so that gives me more of an answer, you know, don't be afraid to dive into new experiences, and it helps bring ease and fluidity to your life, to your thoughts, and to your ambitions. So yeah, that is Laguz, a lovely little rune, that one. Next up, Inguz or Ingwaz, two different ways of saying that, and the corresponding Germanic letters are NG, ng. So this represents an aspect of the god Frey, which is Ing. Ing is the god of love, of fertility. So we have fertility added there, and love, and deep connection, like a genetic connection. Like if this is coming up in questions of love, it would be that this is a very deep, meaningful, long-term relationship with someone. But also the fertility aspect of it gives me the idea of a seed, planting a seed, new beginnings. So this is a rune I feel is filled with hope, but also so layered and deep, you know, so a certain degree of simplicity to it, but also the complex nature of the connections we have with people. And on to my funny little drawings now. And looking at the shape of it, it does very much remind me, and bear in mind there are two different ways of the shape. There is the way I like, and then there is the one where it takes off the top and bottom and just leaves that middle part there. So you may often see it written like that. And in that aspect, it definitely looks like a seed, in my opinion anyway. So again, excuse my drawings. Now, when you put, well, first of all, let's go with what I was going to say, your double helix. That is a really, really bad example. But the double helix, I think that really represents it, that shape. The double helix being, of course, that our DNA, which brings me to those deep genetic connections with each other. We are all human, you know. But then when you put ing, ing, on the end of anything, it represents action. So, for example, sleep is a description of something. Excuse me, sleeping is the action of doing that. So that's part of the multi-layered aspect to it, to do, action, to do. And then when I sort of separate it apart, it brings in kenaz, you know, if you can imagine those two pieces then moving together. So it's the connection with people brings a deeper sense of knowledge when we connect. So yeah, Ingus, a very light energy, but very multi-layered and complex, I think. So that is my opinion on Ingus. So next up, we have a dagaz, nice little dagaz, and the traditional meaning for that is day or night. Again, the corresponding letter, you probably could discern from this if you take that away. The letter D, dagaz. And like I say, the traditional meaning day doesn't give you an awful lot, but day becomes night, and that's the sort of, you know, the equal and opposite there. So as a certain degree of science, you know, I like science, but anyway. So it's very, very much more about that transition, but it does represent time, I feel. If you turn it on its side, it does look like an egg timer. And day itself is a period of time. So, you know, the transformation, metamorphosis and growth. So another one that is quite multi-layered. I mean, getting toward the end of the futhark is reflects very much in the start of the futhark, a lot of hope. But the end of the futhark shows more change. So it's sort of like there's more to come. You know, as we get on to the final letter of the entire futhark, I think you'll maybe be with me and see what I'm saying. But yes, so metamorphosis, change, dagaz. So dag, maybe dog. Every dog has its day. You know, sometimes I do get sayings to relate to people who are asking questions. So that might come up with the person saying, you know, when is this going to happen for me? And it's that promise, you know, that every dog will have its day. And as I said, it's this egg timer shape on its side. And then I consider the taking away the sides of it, and it then becomes gebo. So there's that idea of ensuring you balance things out. And then, as I've previously mentioned with the ingwaz, I believe it was, kenaz, the mathematical symbols, you know, before, you know, things happen in our life. So way in the past, very happy, joyful, positive. And then that reduction. So the past is less than the present. And it's interesting, you know, because we expect it to be greater and greater and greater, but there are times in our life where it becomes less than it was before. And the whole point of that is to keep looking toward the tomorrow. So if things now seem less than they were before, then that natural balance comes in, that the future will be greater than today. I hope you're with me on that. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on daggers. On to the last one. All things must come to an end. And here we have our last letter of the futhark, number 24 and number 8 of the third et. Othala. Traditional meaning of that would be the homeland or inherited land. So that very much ties in with inheritance. You know, we inherit not just money from our ancestors, but we inherit traits. You know, we look like them, perhaps personality traits. And then we get deep into science when we look at memories and genetic memories, you know, sort of things we kind of know how to do. Anyway, that's going off topic. So back on topic. So Othala, I feel this represents family, you know, and really the whole journey, and really a sense of belonging, you know, finding where you belong. So the corresponding letter, yeah, it is very similar. There you've got the letter O, Othala. Now, I will give a small warning here because this rune has been bastardized by certain neo-Nazi factions where they put like a little leg on the end of it. So just be aware of that, newcomers. If you're wanting to get a tattoo or something for Othala, avoid the ones that are very obviously linked with neo-Nazis. I don't know why they took this, and it makes me very angry. But this is a beautiful rune, and I feel this rune brings it all the way back to the start, that idea of family, that idea of the journey. And then we go all the way back to Fehu, the farmer, the family gathering, labour and starting the next cycle, you know. So that's my thoughts. And on to the shape and sound. Now the sound of Othala, it just makes me feel the whole. But again, that's kind of all I'm getting from the sound. You might have other ideas, please share them with me. But then I look at the shape itself, and I think it is like taking a scenic route, going from A to B. So it represents the whole journey in its entirety, twists and turns, and you know, wrenches in the works that make you completely change. You know, don't get stuck in the moment, I feel really is a big answer this gives. Keep going forward, even if you have to change direction completely. Keep the momentum up, because life is a whole journey, you know, and if you believe in multiple lives, it doesn't end when this shell no longer exists, but the energy inside you, your soul, keeps going. And then, like I say, we come all the way back to the start with Fehu. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed my videos. I'll be giving 2 synopsises coming up next, one on the third et and one on the futhark as a whole. But yes, I hope you enjoyed them, and I'll see you on the next one. Here we go, got to keep it short. So going through the third et, through its esoteric journey, and we ended the last with this need to do what needs to be done. Could be considered destruction, becoming rebirth. So at the end of the last one, we had Soulu, so the sun, the warmth, the new start, the new beginning, which brings us to Tiwaz, that need to understand that sacrifice is necessary. Got to do what you got to do, you know. And then you pass through that difficulty by accepting and embracing the necessary that brings you to a place of birth and of nurture your new dream, the new beginning. And that brings you on to Awaz, the horse. Once you've nurtured that dream and decided a new start, is taking that first step and trusting and having faith in the whole, and you know, perhaps forming or joining a new community to go forward And speaking of community, that brings us to manas, the connection with others, with society, with groups, to help bring about a greater experience in your life. Lagus reminds us to keep it flowing forwards, no matter what goes in your way. Perhaps there's issues within your new community. Focus on you and keep going. Just keep going, you know. Life is not counted in the number of times we fall to our knees, but the number of times we get back up again. And I always say, just think to yourself one more time, just one more time. Don't think of the next one and the next one and the next one, just this one. So that brings us to the seed of a new idea. Now, new beginnings aren't necessarily the start of something flourishing. You know, new beginning is planning, is hope, is taking a step. And then you plant the seed and you nurture it, etc. So the new beginning, and of course you must have hope, you must have love, and you must have others in your journey. It is necessary. We're not meant to be alone. And in that journey, having gone through so much, you then find your own metamorphosis, your transformation, becoming greater today than you were yesterday. And ultimately finding where you belong, that long and winding road to find where you belong. And then, of course, to give you the confidence to build on that seed, that idea, that ambition. And then we start all over again with Fehu, which is putting in the labour, putting in the time, and keep pushing and hoping and having faith in yourself. Ultimately, I feel this is what the runes teach us. But let me not get ahead of myself. Next up, I'll be looking at a synopsis of the entire futhark. See you then. So here we start with a little view of the entire set that I've now created. All 24 runes with their traditional meanings and the meanings that they've given me in the journey of their creation. And on the back, the Germanic letter and the name, all presented in a lovely royal blue velvet pouch. Now this set I am not going to put out on my stall for a couple of months to see if any of you lovely people would like to buy them, because of course a lot of energy has gone into them and they truly represent the journey of the runes that I am aiming to get out there. So for £15 plus P&P, this set could be yours. Just let me know. The synopsis, and I will try not to drop my phone as I pop it up here, because I do need to talk with my hands, as you know already. As already touched on, the three Ets sort of represent our life's journey and how it rhythms and flows and doing what it has to do. So as an entire futhark, I believe it represents our entire life. And of course, all the numbers, you know, you could look at the 24 divided by 2 equals 12 months of the year. So 2 runes a month. Perhaps that's a good way of learning them, 2 runes a month. But the way I see it is they fit so intricately into our very existence and our lives and the way our lives go. And our ancestors may not have known this when they created them. It may have been created as just a simple writing system to get across messages, you know. But of course, therein lies the esoteric nature of them. Created to get across messages means they bring more than just literal messages. In a time where people were illiterate, not in the way that we perceive illiteracy, they just didn't know. So you see these symbols and you go, oh, what do they mean? So you start to put a meaning on each one, and then you start to perhaps use them to divine or predict things. So, you know, as a whole, it goes through the entirety of the human condition, the birthing of new ideas, of creation, the hazards and the wrenches thrown in the works and the ways that you have to navigate around them, as represented in the second Et. And the third Et is like the recovery and rebirth, you know. And haven't we all gone through that at some point in our lives? A great idea, an ambition, and we get so close to it. We've put in all the work, laid all the groundwork, but then things go wrong. You know, so you have to change your dream. I know that. I've done that myself. I have failed. I have failed small ways and I've failed in large ways. And it's hard to pick back up again. So that second deck is so important in helping you understand to embrace tragedy and trauma. And the third deck is where I am in my life at the moment. A new beginning, a new start, full of hope and faith. And I know that ultimately I will find my Othala where I belong. And I hope you do too. As always, comment, message me. Let's have a chat about them. And I'd love to hear your ideas. Whether you agree or not, please get in touch. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I'll see you on the next one.